as a hydrotech on the cadre since 2004. Been working with Katie, joined every year of it. So I've got a lot to offer to information, experience, and I'll be glad to be working with you guys and seeing you in 2 days.
2004, that makes me really, that's like, it's amazing. All right, thank you guys. Just so everybody knows, I am recording this so that if anybody needs to pick this up later in the week, or if you know somebody who missed it, we'll have that available to you in a recording. All right, so let's get started. As much as I think I'm prepared, I am never quite fully ready to go. And if the cadre can please let me know whether or not, once I get this started, how everything looks. All right. So we're just going to do I'm going to do a kind of a course overview for you. Look, everybody, you see that okay, cadre?
Yep, looking good.
Okay, cool. So we're going to talk just about the objectives of this session. So this is kind of your initial exposure to the regional methods. It's a foundation. You're going to this is where you're going to start. And we're just going to give you the objectives and to get you started on the stream inventory protocol and what our regional methods are. And we've been doing the regional methods now since 1989 was the first real handbook. And then it became more solid throughout the years. And so now we're really got a good solid foundation in our regional protocol. We're going to make sure we get the handbook and support materials out to you. I didn't get the handbook printed as I would have liked to have gotten it to you, but I did send some links out, and hopefully you guys got that, and I will share those links with you again because they are on the website and they're in a box material for those who have access to the Forest Service box. I'll give access to those people for the NR9 materials. We'll put our presentations on in that box as well at some point. So you guys, if you do want to pull some of these presentations that we're giving today and tomorrow, you can pull those off the box. And we're going to germinate some connections. We actually get together as real people seeing each other, unlike last year, which we didn't get to do. And we'll be able to get you guys out in the field and you'll be able to meet all the other people who are doing stream surveys. And hopefully we'll have some fun. That's one of our big main objectives. It's not that easy online, but hopefully we'll do what we can. And then hopefully on Wednesday and Thursday, and hopefully Friday for those who are snorkeling, we'll actually have some fun in the field. So our course structure is Monday and Tuesday. Today and tomorrow are all virtual. We're going to cover topics in relation to the R6 protocol. So we're going to go through the main procedures on how to do that protocol. We're going to introduce some new terms and some new concepts to you. We're going to do some demonstrations using YouTube videos. We're not going to do as many this year just because we do have, we're actually going to be in the field together. But I will show you guys that YouTube channel kind of when I finish up here, just to show you that there are some really good videos in there that you can view. And for the ones we don't show today, you can definitely go back and view them anytime you want. I've also included last year's invasive species. We're not going to have a direct aquatic invasives presentation this year, but I did cut the video out from last year, from 2020, so it is in there for you to view. We will be talking about aquatic invasives throughout the course, but we aren't going to have a specific presentation for it. And I'll show you the website with the materials. We have that on the R6 website. So those who might not be outside the agency can still get to those materials. And I'll be getting an evaluation together. We sure want you to fill that out because that'll help us just get better. And if there's things that we need to change up, we can definitely do that, especially for this year, which is going to be a little bit different. And we're kind of hybridizing this year with the half virtual and half outdoor. But we'll see how it works. And then hopefully next year we'll get back to fully on normal at some other location. So then Wednesday and Thursday, we get to go in the field. Yay! I'm excited about that. Excited to see faces again. And that gives us such a much better chance for us to demonstrate those protocol procedures following this, the classroom content we're going to do today and tomorrow. And that will really hopefully solidify these protocol procedures for you. We're going to get to practice the surveying, and then you're going to actually get to do that test reach, that fun test reach on Thursday. And you'll have a lot more time to be able to do slowly this year. And we'll be on site to do the summarizing and analyzing. So if we do want to walk out to the site again, we can. So I think it'll be an interesting kind of experiment this year to see how that works. And then on Friday, for those of you who are sticking around, for Friday, that's going to be our snorkel day, and that'll be Bruce Hansen. And I don't know if he came on today. I think he's coming back from Cordova today, so I think he's not on today. But you'll meet him tomorrow. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a little history here. Like I said, we've been a region-wide system since 1989. Most of the attributes we've collected them the same way for all of the forests in the region, including the Columbia River Gorge scenic area. So that gives us a chance to really have some data that's the same throughout a long period of time. The Regional Quality Control Assurance and Coordinator, of course, is me. I've been on the forest since 1992, but been doing stream survey work as a regional person since 2000, but I've been on the Mount Hood since 1992. So been around a while. I definitely know the ropes. So what I want to just talk about is what is stream inventory? So it's a standardized methods. They're adopted from Haken and Reeves. That's a paper that was done that split out all the different habitat units, and the protocol is based on those habitat units. And it's broken into reaches, which are a relatively homogeneous section of stream that has all really similar habitat types and channel types, and you may have the same type of valley as well. And there's a repetition of sequence, and then we break it into channel units, into smaller channel units, slow waters, pools, fast waters, riffles, side channel, special case units, etc. So that's broken up within those reaches. There are forest options that you'll be collecting throughout the as well. Those aren't covered here. Those will be covered at your forest. So each forest has different things that they may collect a little differently based off of our general Region 6 protocol. But then you'll make sure you get that training at your forest. There's also data entry. Now, the aquatic survey data entry, we actually have a specific database for that. We don't talk about that training here, but we do provide that training in the fall. And I can do it anytime during the season if people need that. It's not the focus here, but we definitely can provide the data entry part of it for sure. Okay. Sorry about that. I got a little bit of a delay. So the main objectives of stream inventory. So we're going to identify the existing aquatic and riparian conditions. So we're looking at what's out there at the time of the survey. We're going to identify factors that may limit the productivity of the stream and the habitat. Say we don't have enough wood to create enough pools or to grab enough gravels for spawning. So we're going to identify those factors as we go up the stream and look at our habitat units. We want to measure that attainment by meeting those stream, whether we can meet those stream habitat objectives through if we aren't meeting them, how can we get to that point where we can meet those objectives? And we're also looking at the big picture too, and assessing big watershed effects and what may be happening at the top level. Now there are two phases to stream inventory. We have level 1, which is the office phase. Now this is going to be a place where the crews put together all the information about a stream that they may need to do the stream, like access, if there's old surveys, what's going on, how that will help us see how that maybe that stream has changed throughout. And then it's going to give you just a general introduction to look at that stream to see whether or not where your breach breaks are and where access points are, and any kind of general location and information that you may need before you actually get out into the stream. And then the level 2, which is the field inventory phase, which that part is the meat and bones of what we do. So we're really going to go and we're going to look and we're going to do extensive stream channel separation. We're going to look at all the different habitat types. We're going to look at riparian vegetation. We're going to look at the condition of the habitat and the biotic inventory as well on a watershed scale. And you're really getting that pulse of the stream, that big picture. You're taking that photo, and then that will bring us down into a level. If somebody's going to do a project somewhere, they now have a real good picture of what that whole stream condition is. And the purpose of this is to, again, the summary is to identify those existing stream channel habitat units, look at the riparian, and get that aquatic ecosystem on the watershed scale. So you might ask, why do we inventory streams? Do we really care what's going on out there? It's really important for us to know, and we can help. This information helps all these other programs, say timber, wildlife, and we can actually get that good line. So because everything happens at the stream level. We're going to collect that baseline data on the stream conditions. Again, we're just taking that pulse of the stream. We're looking at pre-project conditions. If there's something going on, then we want to be able to look at a section before we actually put a project in, or if we're going to do a culvert project, say, those are all pre-project conditions that we want to know what it looks like before. We were lucky, like this last year, we had done some work in Fish Creek here in the Clackamas River Ranger District. It is now all burned up. So now we actually have some pre-stream conditions after that Riverside fire. We now can go in and we can actually look and see how this fire affected that area, but we have that survey before. So that really is it will be an interesting project. We also support timber sales. They need to know what kind of fish and how those streams are, so they can decide what kind of riparian and what kind of buffer zones they may have to put on different creeks. We've got a lot of road obliteration going on. So that's something where if we get in there and find those culverts and those places where we don't really need those roads anymore, and how we can make those streams better with that. Again, in-stream restoration, really big thing for us to be able to put more wood in, potentially add gravels, take culverts out so that we're don't have the barriers, those artificial barriers anymore. So these are all things that we're looking at when we're doing a stream inventory. Now, as we complete and we can repeat these over time, and so we can measure those changes in the stream channel. We can see how things looked before, and then if we actually put some projects in, we can see whether or not those projects worked or not. We're going to determine the attainment and whether or not we can actually get those habitat management goals, and then we really want to have good quality control. Another example, if we're going to do it, like say the Pot Creek culvert replacement, we need to justify why we're taking that culvert out. Is there a habitat above? And we can get all kinds of different data to justify removing that culvert if that's something we want to be able to do. So on the large scale, that was kind of on that small scale, we inventory streams for larger landscape analysis. We have forest plan revisions. A lot of forests have forest plans in which they are looking at different conditions on the stream, say wood per mile, pools per mile. By doing stream inventory over time, we can actually figure out whether or not we need to revise those forest plans. Watershed analysis. Those are big things for being able to get project money or get money. Right now we've got these large scale, can't remember the name of it. It's called WRAP. It's the watershed action plans, where if we have something like that, we have a stream survey, we can actually then look at that stream survey and use that for that watershed analysis. And we have late successional reserve analysis. That's a long-term strategy for the resilience of the ecosystem, and that is to protect the old growth systems in relation to the northern spotted owl, which is something that we really have looked at. And we want to protect those areas to make sure that we have the right buffer zones and old growth for our species. Now, who uses this data? So we've got different resource specialists, especially the fisheries biologists and hydrologists are always looking to see whether or not we have good habitat for our fish. Our hydrologists are looking to see if we've got good flow and that whether or not we've got any large scale debris jams or slides or things like that that need to be addressed. Botanists also use it, as there are many, many different plants and information that for botanists that we collect in the stream. Definitely something that we've tried to emphasize in the last few years is the aquatic invasive specialists. We are on the stream. We are in places that not many people get to go, and we cover a lot more ground. So we can actually look for these invasives throughout our survey just to make sure that we're helping out on that end. And then, of course, timber, which we are supporting the timber sales, making sure that they know what we have on the ground in the way of water. The general public also probably could potentially use this data. And though most of them are looking to see where the fish are, they want to know the good fishing spots, or they might just be interested in what's going on in the conservation world. The line and staff officers definitely use it, and we just recently used it to support our wild and scenic rivers designations so that they actually had that information in those places that are really pristine kinds of watersheds. So, what's our strategy? For this week, is training. This is where it all starts. So this week we got to actually do virtual and field again. Yay! So the NR9 cadre, who you were introduced to, they are definitely good sources of information and help throughout. And we're going to be there for you to answer any questions you have, and hopefully you'll be able to walk away this week feeling at least somewhat comfortable with the survey protocol. Your forest should really be doing some training at the forest level as well, especially for those forest options. We've got gurus. We've got a really good group of people here who have experience over the years, and they can help you. And they'll hopefully be there this week to help you out as well. And definitely ask those people the questions. They've been there. They're in the field every year. They definitely understand all the ins and outs of the protocol. Again, we're going to do that test reach for each survey team this year, and then they should be covering your forest options. And then there may be a field visit either by me, or if you guys want me to come out and help you out, if you need some help and have some questions, I can definitely come out to the forest level. And then the person who is your coordinator or your QA person, quality assurance person, should really be out with you at least in the first week if you don't have a lot of experience doing stream surveys. And the data entry is something that you'll probably either learn at the forest, and then we give classes through NRM on data entry, and we're willing to do that during the season so that you guys can get your data in as soon as possible into that database. So again, our goals this week, we want accurate field data. We really want you to measure wherever feasible. It really helps us with consistency. And consistency is very important because we want to be consistent. So the data that we collect over the year and over the years, and we have them consistently in the same types of data, it helps to really give us a good look at what's going on, and that means we've got good quality data. So as we're looking stream inventory changes, nothing for new 2021. Wasn't going to put that on anybody for this year just because we're finally kind of pulling out of this pandemic. Hopefully we didn't make any changes. Everything seems pretty steady right now. So what you all can expect this week, they're going to be confused. We're going to throw a lot of terms at you. There's going to be a lot of things that you may not have heard before, a lot of new vocabulary, there's new techniques. So don't worry if you're confused, and definitely ask a lot of questions. We're here to answer them for you. This is not your last training. Make sure that your training gets done at the forest level. There's streams are different on every forest. The west side compared to the east side is a lot different. So make sure you're getting that training at the forest. And we're definitely going to get you some practice in the stream. Yay! Again, I can't emphasize that enough, that us being able to do that in the stream for you is going to really be helpful. I mean, that's where it's hopefully all going to make sense for you, and you'll be able to really get that chance to practice this week. Entertainment, I'm sure there'll be some entertainment as we go along. You'll be able to hopefully have some fun, and we'll try to keep you engaged over, if not the next 2 days, at least in the field. We think that engaging you is going to help you definitely get absorb more information. So some of the good learning rules, we want to make sure, make mistakes. You're definitely going to do that. We have no problems. I still make mistakes. I'm sure the rest of the cadre still makes mistakes. Ask lots of questions. If you don't ask a question, you never know. We always know that no question is stupid and no question is dumb. We will definitely love to get as many questions as we can. You can cheat all you want. There's a handbook available. There's cheat sheets. You don't have to have everything in your head. We can put stuff on clipboards. Just make sure you have all that information at your hands. And let's have some fun. I think we'll definitely try to do that. And what we expect out of you this week, again, questions. Put your questions in the chat box. We'll get through them as we go through the course. We'll also, if you want to raise your hand during the class at any point, the cadre can help me out if there's questions to be had. And then, of course, we always grade us. We're as much of that as anybody else. We really want to be able to know whether or not we're doing the service to you and whether or not you need us to do something different. Cool. So that's it for my presentation. I do want to just quick go through. Let me show you. So I'm going to. So we do have some, I think, some really good resources for you here. And I'm going to. So hopefully you can all see this. This is the Region 6 training site. This is, we've got a bunch of information here. This is about the inventory. Here's the website, and I can put this in the chat for those who want to get to this. But the nice thing about this is it's got our handbooks. The 2021 was supposed to have put in here. I don't know where it's at. We've had a little bit of turnover, so I got it to who I thought needed to get it, but I don't see it in that location. But let's see if it's in here. This is the binder. It does say 2019, but don't worry about that. These are pretty much everything is the same. We haven't changed anything. I will update some of these because price and cadre numbers have changed. I do have the updates to these. But all this information is in here for you. There's channel unit forms and Excel files. There's some of the daily reports for the aquatic invasive species. And then the binder is really, if you don't have one on the forest, at least from 2019, these are really good resources. There's different publications and guides within these binder tabs that will help if you're looking for some information. And then again, all the handbooks are in here, and we'll get that 2021 in here hopefully as well too. And then we have, let me copy that. I'll put this in the paste. Hopefully that will come through. So that's the Forest Service website. And then show you. something I put together last year. We did our YouTube channel. So this is our sixth stream inventory YouTube channel. I know people have been having some issues finding this just by doing, I'm not that skookum on YouTube, so I do need to figure out, there's got to be some other ways for me to get a search, so when you guys actually look for it, it'll be easier to find. But I'll put this in the chat as well. But this is a good resource for any types of actual field measurements. We actually took these videos in the field to give you some guidance if you needed it. But you can come in here at any point in time and look at these. There's how to do flood prone Bankfull. There's habitat typing, which you guys will watch later today. Bankfull descriptions. So these are some really good. There's Wolman Pebble counts, discharge measurements. There's all kinds of different videos, and you guys can come in here and explore a little bit. And hopefully we'll be adding a few more as we go along. But this here is for you guys to definitely use anytime. You can pop into it at any point in time to look at those videos. Let me put that one. Next. So there's nope. Oh, I think you got the YouTube channel no matter what. So let me see. If you can't get to that, let me know, because that seems like it's the same one as it was before. So. Okay. And with that, does anybody have any questions? Comments? Hello, goodbye. Anybody? We good? All right. Then we will go on to our level 1 office interview overview, and that is Dave Klug.
Okay, let me bring it up here, share my screen.
Oh, Dave, I should have mentioned, if somebody did mention that if your internet is slow and you're not catching up on on the slides, please let us know. We'll go a little slower. And like I said, we'll also put these in the box, share the file folder, and I'll get the link to that for you guys too. So, all right. Sorry, Dave.
Yep. No, looks like it's still coming up. Also wanted to mention that I'm a restoration specialist, and so I've got a lot of restoration contracts under my belt. So I look at streams from a restoration standpoint. So I tend to bring some of that into the conversation. It's not coming up, huh? And it looks like it's stuck. Maybe I should try it a different way. Let me try opening that again. Try the screen this time. What do y'all see? Anything?
Nothing yet, Dave. It's moving slow.
I see it on mine, but huh.
Yeah, it's just a black screen right now.
Black screen showing up on mine.
And you shared it?
Yeah. It says it's sharing, so I'm going to stop sharing and try it again. There's different ways to open this up. Let's see. How's that? Is it showing?
Not yet.
It shows a red box around my screen. which indicates it should be sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just getting a black. I'm not seeing anything. I love the virtual world.
It was just loading for
It was loading.
I just saw it, but now it's gone.
You just what? Oh, it's gone. Okay. I show a bar showing it's presenting.
There it is.
Is it
Yay.
there?
Yep.
Awesome. All right.
I don't see it.
You don't see it? Let me see.
I don't see it either, Dave. Weird.
Okay, there it is.
We do see it.
No,
If
it's
everybody
there
else
now.
can see it, just it'll catch up here.
Hmm. We did do a trial run on this, so should be working. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop sharing and try it one more time here. How about that? No?
I see it.
Looks
Now
it's
at
there.
it. Ooh.
Everybody see it?
Think
Not
we're
everybody
good.
seeing it. Okay. All right, the level 1 survey office overview. So I'm asking the question here, what do you do when you plan a trip to a place you've never been before? You want to go out and see some gorgeous country, wilderness experience. You collect your maps, you collect some data, you gather some information, you get to know the place before you actually go out in the field. So it's a good idea to know what you may encounter out there, out in the wild. So that's what this is. It's information gathering. And now I went to my next slide, but I'm not seeing it. You see the next slide?
Not yet.
One survey. Oh boy. Okay. What am I doing wrong here? Zoom slideshow. I see it, but you're not seeing it. Okay, be patient with me. I guess I'm gonna have to stop sharing and try it one more time. Let's see. That's the same screen. Oh, now it's changing. Did you see the level 1 survey now above? Anybody?
Oh, there we go.
You
I
see
got
that?
it.
Okay. All right. Well, what the level 1 survey does is provides an overview. It gives you the big picture, gives you the bird's eye view. Anybody not seeing this? Okay. It gives us a background introduction for the surveyors to envision. It gives you a vision of what you're going to encounter in the field. So you have in your mind's eye, in your knowledge bank, what you may be seeing out there. It empowers you. Knowledge is power, right? It gives you information that will make you far more effective out in the field. And it's extremely valuable. You need to do this to determine the limitations such as reach breaks, access logistics, and pebble count locations, as well as other limitations. So you'll have that understanding and that knowledge of what those limitations are. It also summarizes the natural history, the historic uses, the restoration activities, the previous surveys, and the information on data collected in the past in that watershed. So you get a historical perspective on what happened in that watershed that affects the stream you're going to be encountering. And it gives you, it creates a header. So all your forms will have the information you need to fill out those headers. And one thing that we find as an oops is header information not filled out. You know, there's a lot of streams out there like Elk Creek or Fish Creek that there's Fish Creek in all kinds of watersheds in the region. So you need more than just the stream name. You need some other identifying information to really nail down where that is. Okay. There, as Katie was talking about, you're going to be identifying reach breaks. You can be using the old reach breaks if there were reaches in the past that were identified for that stream, which most of them will have. But you may actually be changing those reaches if you find that there's good reason to change reaches, which doesn't happen often, but it may. So again, the header information goes from the big picture view down to the stream name, and that's exactly what the HUC code does. From the big picture, the large scale to the small scale. And so again, you're filling out your header information for other forms to be filled out with, and it answers the basic questions: where, what stream, what watershed, what map, when, and who. So that anybody who looks at that cover sheet, that survey form cover sheet, they can have those basic questions answered so they can get into the details of what happened, what's been surveyed. Again, the HUC, the hydrological unit codes, gives you the watershed name in a code. And I just want to go through what this code stands for. So you understand from the big picture view that the first two digits is a region. In this case, we're in the Columbia, Pacific Northwest. Subregion is a 4-digit code, be in the middle Columbia. For now, we're refining down to the basin. 6-digit is the Deschutes, in our case of White's Creek. Sub-basin's the upper Deschutes, and then there's the watershed at the 10-digit level, which is the fifth field, which is White's Creek. And then you can break it down even into a 12-digit sub-watershed. Many of your streams will be at that sub-watershed level. So you're going to want that, or in this case, upper White's Creek, or it could be a totally different stream name, a tributary, a fish-bearing tributary. And you can find that HUC data in GIS on the T drive through Citrix, which is where ArcMap, where our GIS data is housed and where we operate and make maps from. So yeah, apologize for any foreign words or acronyms you'll be hearing later. But again, this is spatially, we're looking at, in this case, this is a training reach from the past years, headwaters of the Umatilla. But we're not surveying, we weren't surveying the Umatilla, we were surveying the South Fork of the Umatilla. That's a subwatershed at the 12-digit code. 12 digit. That's the most refined level and often where your streams will be surveyed at. And then the watershed area is good to know because some watersheds are much larger than others. And that will help you understand flow regimes, how much discharge you can expect, and what size of the channel. The bigger the watershed area, the larger the channel, of course. Small watersheds have small channels. And you can see that spatially at the USGS website. They've got a viewer, a national map viewer. And again, that information, hydrologists, hydrotechs can help you find that so you can get to know your stream from a hydrological viewpoint, from a watershed viewpoint. Next on the survey form, you have fish and amphibian species. And so you want to know what species have been identified out there in the past. And in this case, in Whitejuice Creek, you can expect to see red band trout darting around, steelhead spring chinook, although this isn't the time of year that you'll see the spawners. But if you're surveying later in August, you may see them. Brown trout, Pacific chorus frogs, amphibians are cool to find and identify. So if you already know these species, you can quickly maybe identify them more readily and more effectively. And data sources are also something part of the form that you would collect. You would see where sources of data came from. In this case, in Whitejuice Creek, we have our very own Ryan Manzula and his partner Erica Porter, a cadre member Ryan that had surveyed it back in 2014. And then there's a monitoring report by the Watershed Council that came out in 2010. So there's some great information there that'll help you understand and empower you with knowledge and information. There's maybe other surveys on BLM, say down lower, you might have BLM portion or state portion, or ODF&W may have collected some species related information, survey data. And if there's nothing on the record, if you're way out there in a remote stream, you may nothing. But that's good to know too. Leaving blanks is not helpful information, but if there is nothing, then put like nothing there. Flow data, of course, 2014, you will be collecting discharge data, and previous level 2 surveys, of course, have done the same. But there may also have been some Watershed Council survey done that also collected stream flow. In larger streams where you have, say, water diversions, you may have Oregon Water Resources Department. In this case, Whitejuice Creek does have data online from the Oregon Water Resources Department because there's a dam there with as fish passage that they collect data there as well. And this is what you'll see, an example of what you'll see on the Oregon Water Resources Department webpage. And you just type in your stream name, see if it comes up, and you can see all the stations where they actually collect data. In this case, there's 4 stations where discharge data is collected in this data-rich stream. There's also other water quality data that may have been collected by, say, the Watershed Council or by somebody like me, a hydrotech. I've collected turbidity data as well as temperature data. I've got some long-term temperature stations, not just level 2, but other long-term temperature data, as well as many other forests and districts have that as well. The city may be collecting some data. They have an intake close by downstream. Fish hatchery. If you have a fish hatchery that's pulling water, they definitely collect lots of data. It's not common, but there may be some macroinvertebrate data, which is cool because if you know what species of macroinvertebrates have been found, you can arm yourself with that information and be looking for those guys. Like stoneflies, caddisflies, mayflies, possibly, and get to know what the fish are eating. Previous surveys, we got a level 2, again, that previous one by our very own Ryan Manzula. And you can see their bibliography on that. So you want to list the source, level of the survey, and the year. It's just basic information of any survey that you collect. And their survey reports. In this case, Wendy Brewer did an excellent report that you should make yourself familiar with. Go through it, see what they found, and then you'll know what to expect when you go out there on that same stream. Okay. Historical land use data will definitely tell the story of why the stream looks the way it does today. There may be water diversions, which is going to change your discharge above and below. Irrigation dams, canals maybe have been excavated, which is the case in White's Creek. Clear-cut harvesting and ranching is going to have a big effect on what the riparian vegetation is going to look like, or a fire, or wildfire is going to change the nature of the vegetation for sure. Recreational use, you want to know if you're going to be encountering recreational activity, camping and fishing pressures. That can definitely impact the species, the water quality that you'll be encountering. But be general about it, whether there was some period of logging, clear cutting, grazing, if it's continuing. Railroad building, there may be a railroad grade right along the streams. We got several of those on our district. Mining, of course, you might see failing piles and that kind of thing, dams, anything that affects the riparian conditions is good to know, so you can read your stream and decipher what may have happened to make it look the way it is today. State sources, state those sources you found. Watershed analysis is a great place to look at watershed and riparian conditions. The historical land use atlas bring you up some old photographs of the place, because what it looked like back then probably looks very different today, but will also help you understand why things look the way they do today. And then like Katie was showing you, we have every forest has a website, and region has a website, but the forest also for natural resources, and they get into a lot more detail and provide some of that historical perspective for those who want to know more about the streams like yourself. So surveys in White's Creek have been coordinated with the Watershed Council, and there might be other agencies, state BLM, special interest group, like a mining activity group or something. And then in remarks, you want to just describe the most outstanding effects, disturbances, activities that in this case in White's Creek, where you'll be training, there's been some stream restoration efforts with actual excavation of the channels and placements of large wood. And then there's also been extensive water diversions that change the flow regimes, the discharge, amount of flow through those reaches. Then there's recreating lots of recreating there, and different stretches of the stream as people have access, which is good to know, whether it's public or private. And you can list the watershed problems like fishing pressure, recreation, landslides, and earth flows. Definitely radically changes streams morphology. And waterfalls and dams, that would be migration barriers. Then also you need to know if there's no trespassing or on private land sections, and if you need to gain permission or not on those pieces that you'd like to survey that are actually on private land. Areas of hazard trees, from wildfires. 44% of our district burned up this last September. So we got some major problems. We got issues with hazard trees, and our streams, our riparian areas are going to look a lot different. So as Katie was saying, it's going to be really good to have that previous data before the fire to compare to data after wildfires or bug kill. The same. This is a picture of what was going on in Wyches Creek before the water was turned back on into that channel. And so, if you see pictures like that, you get an understanding of why the stream looks the way it is, why the wood is in the position it's in. In this case, this had a huge effect. Major changes were done to the stream. So you can note those. And there's been logs and boulders placed. And there's been riparian plantings that were hosted by those structures that curb erosion and host that encroaching vegetation. So in summary, the survey summarizes what's already known about the watershed, and it builds a header template that you want to use for all your other survey forms. Don't leave blanks, if you please. And it starts a field map for you to break out, to change, or validate those preliminary reaches. And it's not going. There it goes. Katie touched on this, but it bears repeating. What's a reach? What is a reach? Very important term to understand. It's a section of stream on a valley floor with physical attributes that are relatively uniform and enduring through time. So that produces a relatively homogeneous section of stream maintaining a repetitious sequence of habitat types that you can basically count on to find again in subsequent surveys over decades, say, of time. So what changes in enduring physical attributes should we look for that break a reach, that make one reach different than another reach? What are those kinds of attributes that we're looking for? Well, the drivers are valley floor width. So a valley floor in a reach will have the similar size, similar width. So larger streams, of course, have larger valley floors with larger discharges, larger flows. Channel gradient will drive what that stream looks like. So a lower gradient, and you see on the right side of that chart, will have more sinuous patterns, more broad alluvial features. Alluvial meaning stream form features, not versus land form or slope form features, which you'll see on the left side. Those are steeper streams that are more confined by bedrock, confined by side slopes and geology. And they're steeper, they're more of a stair step pattern of pools versus a lateral side pattern of pools, which describes sinuosity, curvature. So your lower gradient streams will have more curvature in general than your higher gradient streams. Stream flows will endure through time. We're going to have the same stream flow patterns based on tributary junctions. Larger tributaries with discharge greater than 20% is often used as a rule of thumb on what constitutes a change in reach, because a large tributary inputting large discharge will change the floor, change the valley floor, change the wetted width, change your dimensions of your habitats. You can expect to see larger dimensions by discharge changes, flow changes. Okay, so the preliminary reach form in the field map are Stratifies preliminary reaches for the stream that you are to survey. Okay, so stratifying meaning it's breaking out reaches. up the channel. It creates, changes, or verifies the preliminary reach breaks marked down on your field map. So you're going to have a field map with reach breaks on them, but they are preliminary. They're not final until you've surveyed that stream. And then we recommend, that's a general rule of thumb, half a mile is the minimum length in order to see those enduring, homogeneous, repetitious attributes, habitats over time. And then at the very basic level, the most basic level, level 1, this is a level 1 overview again of at the alphabet soup level of Rosgen stream typing. Big Bob is going to be giving you a presentation on Rosgen stream typing and what that's all about. It's a basic classification scheme that's been adopted for a couple decades or more, 3 decades, on how to break out streams on those on the gradient level and the plan view, the cross-sectional view of the stream. And so you're going to be either confirming what's been already classified, or maybe you'll be refining or changing, which shouldn't happen very often. At the end of your survey, you may be refining that alphabet, that ABC level. Okay, I just wanted to bring up aerial photo or LiDAR interpretation. LiDAR is the latest Raven mapping and looking at streams and any other morphological features of a landscape. So I encourage you to get familiar with LiDAR. We don't expect you to be able to work with LiDAR at this level, but you can get somebody to print out a LiDAR or show you a LiDAR view of the stream. You're going to see way more detail than you would see on an aerial photo. You're going to be able to see channels, because LiDAR removes the high resolution mapping that uses laser pulses from an aerial craft, and it maps out. It basically gives you the finest resolution of features, and especially you're going to be looking at channel features, and it can also give you vegetation patterns, but it also gives you cues on mass erosion and landslides. You can easily see landslides, debris torrents with LiDAR, and sometimes with aerial photos. Gives you cues on access. You can see roads that may not even show up on a regular map. It might have been decommissioned. Shows the effects of land uses such as logging, grazing, or recreation. They can change the morphology of the stream. You can see skid trails or logging roads that you would see on a regular map. And it may show you, it can give you a clue on sinuosity patterns, but no values can be directly derived from aerials. And I would add that at a level 1, we don't need to get into, we're not getting into deriving values from LiDAR. It's just too complicated. We're not that far advanced in the technology of using LiDAR to be able to do that. So we are still working with maps, USGS topographic maps that have lines. And I just wanted to point out that the maps you'll be using in the field, taken with you, have very more gradual, less tortuous, more generalized forms of the red line. See the red line on the right, and then there's this more tortuous line that may be actually what you will encounter, what you'll be surveying as in your stream, in the main channel, down the center of the channel, which you may see in LiDAR as well. But you can't tell in LiDAR what the main channel is because you don't know what flow is in LiDAR. That's another drawback of LiDAR. But so I want to make the point, it's really important to understand that a mapped streamline that generalized curved line, is not the same as what you'll see in the field. So sinuosity will not be the same either. Sinuosity values from a map will run significantly lower than actual field measure sinuosities you're going to use for Rosgen stream typing. So keep that in mind. Why is that? It's because channel gradient values differ from map versus field. You'll find channel gradients, not just sinuosity, but channel gradients from a map will run significantly higher than actual field measured gradients used for Rosgen stream typing. It's real important to understand, so it clears up some confusion about the map values versus what you encounter in the field. So I just want to give you a simple illustration using Waldo on how map values versus field may look like. Now, say channel A is what you'd think you'd see based on a map, but when you get out in the stream, you see something what looks more like what channel B looks like. So the question here is, which channel has the lower channel gradient? Is less steep? Is it channel A or channel B? Which one has the lower channel gradient? Okay, well, there's a 2-foot rise and a 100-foot run. So the channel on that red line is 100 feet long in A. And both valley floors are the same. They're going to say they're 90 feet long. So there's the map versus the field. But in the field, you find that over that 2-foot rise, there's a 125-foot run. You actually measured, the red line measured out to be 125 feet. So doing the simple math, the map value is 2%, but out in the field, you find out it's actually 1.6%. That's really common to have that kind of scale difference, okay? So which channel has a higher degree of sinuosity? Anybody want to speak up? Anybody out there? And channel A or channel B, which one is more sinuous? Anybody out there?
Channel B.
Can you hear me?
We have B's with answers. B.
All right, yep. Channel B. That's so obviously channel B is more sinuous. Okay, great. Keep catching on. So 1.11 sinuosity for channel A, 1.39 sinuosity for the field sinuosity. So keep that in mind, because Rosgen stream typing is based on field sinuosity, slope. And also same with slope, same with the channel gradient, it's also called. So when you see slope, think also in terms of channel gradient, same thing. What happened here? Yeah, I guess that's all I had there. So you see the breaks in slope, that will determine the different channel ABC Rosgen stream type, which I'm not going to get into just describing here. Rosgen, Bob's going to do that for us in a later presentation. And again, I just wanted to show you how this breaks out, get you familiar with this form, because this chart, because this is going to be something you'll have almost memorized, hopefully by the end of the season, and you'll be looking at it, and by the end of the reach after surveying it, you're going to be either confirming or changing, hopefully confirming that alpha level, ABC level of stream. Okay, Katie, are you ready for a demo? Should have checked earlier on this.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So what Katie's going to do, she's going to bring up what are you going to bring up, Katie?
I am going to bring up ArcGIS Earth.
ArcGIS.
let me find it in my.
Years we've had different programs that have been the go-to program to measure gradients and measure sinuosities. We won't be measuring sinuosities on the map, but you'll get an idea. You get a perspective of it.
Can people see this?
Okay, do I need to stop sharing or did you take over?
I've shared, but I'm not sure if people can see what they can see or not.
Yeah, Katie, we see a map.
I see it. Yep.
Okay, so this is ArcGIS Earth, and so just definitely let me know if I things aren't catching up quick, because we know how this is. But so this program is an Esri program. It's free. It's and we can download it onto our computers with. I don't even think you need elevated status, or you just have to run it elevated. We don't really need to actually help call the help desk. But the nice thing about this is it's actually got all the different layers of maps. So this right now is an aerial, as you can see. But as I go in here, you can actually change to the different maps. And so I like to use, so far, recently I've actually changed to this U.S. national map, which seems to have some of the more updated streams on it. So is everybody seeing that?
Yep.
So this one has all the contours on it. You can also download the, there's the regular USA topo maps, which would get you like what you'd see like an actual USGS map. That's also available to you. So the nice thing is that they're all here for you to use. Again, everything is free. So then if you're coming in here and you need to do some map miles, pick a different stream than that. So just say like, here's Cooper Creek, right here. And you can see it's got the section marks on it, but you can actually do measurements. So you can come in here and it'll give you a line, so you can actually do a point. It'll actually give you elevation. So this is where, like Dave was saying, when you're trying to figure out your gradients, you have to have a beginning and ending elevation. So this is one way where you can pull the elevations off of here by just putting a point in, and it'll actually give you that elevation. It'll actually give you a lat long too. So if you want to, you can actually put this point, make this point, and transfer it to a GPS unit, or you can actually, hand enter it into a Venza or anything like that, and it'll give you that location. So if you're trying to use it for navigation, you'll be able to find your stream. So that's one nice deal. And then the other part I like is the measurement part. So there's, you come in here and you just change this to, this is feet. So then you can just come in here, and it's a little unwieldy because unfortunately it doesn't snap to the stream, but you can come in here and just get a general idea of distances. So you can just come in here and you just click and it'll give you your distance. And then if you double click, it stays up, and then it gives you your feet. And you can do this in miles. You can put miles in here. So it gives you that chance of suddenly you have a beginning and ending of elevation, and your change in distance, so you can actually calculate your gradients. The other nice thing about this is you can actually put this on here if you wanted to save this line and you want to make some maps with lines in them or points. You can do that. There's a drawing tool, so you can actually put different points on here if you wanted to mark a point. Then say you wanted to send this to something, or you wanted to, and you can actually, I believe you can actually create like a KMZ file. Say if you downloaded points in here and you created a KMZ or KML file, you can actually download this directly into ArcGIS onto your system. But the thing I like about this is that not everybody has access to the ArcGIS that we have online, and sometimes it's a little unwieldy. This is just kind of a scaled down version, a nice simple version to be able to get your information on the stream. And we have actually I got some download points like here, so it'll take me right there. So these are some points that were downloaded last year from a survey. Came in here, it's like got all the tributaries that we saw. Let me know whether or not it's drawing quickly or not. This one's a little, the USGS map is a little cleaner, I think. But here you can say that here's some of the GPS points. There's like trib 11, trib 21. So there's a bunch of these are actual points that were, I think, saved in Avenza and then transferred onto this map. You can do it from a GPS, and a Garmin GPS can be downloaded. Pretty much any file, as long as it's in the right, like a KMZ file, it will, or a KML file, it'll download into this map. So you'll actually have it. So these are all points that were, yes, snail, survey tree. So these are pebble counts, the day they ended, and then the nice thing about this is it's got the end, where they ended the survey. And so that's one point that you can use when you're doing your data entry. You can transfer these into AQS and actually have the points. But it's just a lot handier to me and a lot more user-friendly than regular GIS. And you don't have to get online. You have to be online to do it, but you don't have to like get into the Forest Service, find the, ArcGIS. It just gives you that chance to really be able to do a quick and dirty measurements and looking at contours, and you can do your reach breaks in here by looking at the different contour breaks. Like in here, you can see that everything looks pretty good, and then it gets really tight. So you might change your reach break, might change in here somewhere. So those are just some things you can look, and you can look at access points. You can see there's a trail here. It's a nice tool to have that's easier than maybe getting into the big old mapping world of ArcGIS, especially if you don't have those skills just yet and you're just learning. But it basically has a lot of the same ones. So for me, this is definitely one I use. And I also, I think he had mentioned the national map, which is online, and I can see if I can, let's see how quickly. Let me know. Are you guys seeing my internet?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. It's looking good.
So the national map, which is a USGS tool, this one is really handy too because it has all the quads on it. It has the NHD layer, which is our National Hydrography data set, which is like the real lines from the streams that they've taken. It's got a bunch of different layers available. Should come up here soon. Especially when you're writing reports and you want to try to find which quads things are on or that type of thing. Again, there's a base map gallery in here, so that it has the imagery. There's different layers, and so that's another one that here's layers. It's got the geographic names. It's got your data set. It's got your watershed boundaries in here. You can turn this on. You can turn on the hydrography set. So it's just really nice. So now here you can see that the boundaries have actually shown up, and actually showed up pretty quickly, which is unusual for my computer to draw that quickly. But here you can see if you're looking for a watershed number, it's got the HUC code right in it. And it's a pretty handy little deal. So this is a good one to bookmark. It's just just go to national map and it should pull it up in Google for you. So that's another, and you can do measurements in here as well. So there's a couple different really good resources for you in the world of just being able to make things a little easier for you, since we do carry paper maps. I still like to have people with paper maps, but this is just a little bit easier for measuring, and you can print these out right on a color printer as well. So anybody have any questions or comments or other tools that they use?
Yeah, it's really cool that you can go online, not have to be in the network Forest Service system, and be able to do this kind of analysis. This is all pretty cutting edge, and I would really encourage everybody to get into this program and and for not just the purpose of level 1 and level 2 surveys, but for just to get to know your streams, look at data. There's so much data and information out there that you can derive from these programs that get yourself familiar with them and play around, explore online.
Yeah, a really cool thing, like Dave was saying, this is Yellow Jacket Creek, which is up on the Gifford Pinchot, and this front area of the lower part has blown out, and it doesn't really match where the stream is. So it's kind of interesting that each map is a little different, but you can actually look at the imagery and see really where the stream is compared to what it is on the map. So it kind of gives you that big picture look, so you can see, well, wow, this blew out because the stream is no longer in here anymore. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but the section in here is no longer, the stream doesn't flow in here anymore. It flows over here and also splits over here. So this kind of gives you that chance to have the imagery and look at it on top of then being able to pull the map up and saying, oh, okay, that's, this does not do what it used to do. So it's a nice comparison just to be able to look. And then you can always go to Google Earth and see different years, the progression of different years too. So,
yeah, and if you can get a printout of the LiDAR for that area, the channels really pop out. You can see, you'll see the old channel, but it'll be more muted, more subtle than the new active channel. So yeah, I encourage you to ask for LiDAR printouts, plots of the stream as well.
If you have it, if they've flown.
If they've flown, yeah. I understand most of the region's pretty well covered now, so.
We have no LiDAR on the Clackamas River.
You're kidding me.
No.
You're an exception.
Of all the big rivers, it's like we have no coverage of LiDAR. They screwed up the flight, but it should be available. It is available for many, but some aren't available. But it is pretty cool stuff. Somebody asked what the difference between KMZ and KML files. I don't know if anybody else can answer that. It's just an extension, and I think for in here the KML files, I don't know what it stands for, but it's a mapping extension. And so a lot of times if you're like do a Garmin and you use the Basecamp, it'll actually, if you want to download into like a KML file, and the KML file, I think there's and I'm not sure the difference between the two of them. Sorry, I can do more research, but it's usually kind of an experiment to see which one works, and then that's the one I go with. Because you see, I have KMZs and KMLs in this file, so. There we go. KMZs are zipped versions. Okay, that makes sense.
Learn something new every day. Z for zip.
Yeah, I know. I got KMZ makes total sense. All right. That's all I got, Dave. Unless there's something else you want to see.
No, that's cool. So again, I just want to point out that those lines that you're looking at on the map, on a USGS map, are far more generalized than the tortuous, as it's been called, the FAWEG, that's a new term for many I know, then the main channel that you're going to actually be following, the deepest portion of the channels, and be far more tortuous or sinuous than what you see there. So that's just a real important distinction to make when you're looking at slope and sinuosity at a Rosgen stream type level, which Bob's going to be sharing with us, right, Bob? You there, Bob?
Yep, that's right. That's right, Dave.
All right.
All right. Cool. Well, we are up in that was the good timing. We're at a break. I see we've only got 5 minutes, but I'll give you guys 10-minute break right now. So we'll be back by like 9:35, please. So we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back with Bankfull and Floodprone. Yep, Bob, anytime.
All right, sounds good. All right, thank you, everybody. Again, Bob Hassmiller, District Hydrologist, and right now we're going to talk about Bankfull. And so welcome, Stream Survey friends. Bankfull, a wise old sage by the name of Dave Rosgen, he once told me something. And what that is if you don't know Bankfull, you really don't know shit. And this is particularly true within the NR9 context, because hopefully what you'll see after this presentation is done is the recognition that Bankfull is a critical benchmark used throughout much of the daily measurements you'll do for stream survey out in the field this summer for your team. And so understanding Bankfull and being able to identify it is really a core process. And we hope you guys have fun with it. So some of the talking points through this presentation. The first one, get some familiarity with what Bankfull is. And so we're going to gain insight into the theory for Bankfull. Number two, why it's important within the context of stream survey to know it. Number three, how we're going to ask you all how to locate it and measure the river's shape. Four, we'll examine some watch out situations where we don't want to measure it. And then finally, we'll take a little look at some examples of how to find it in the field. Please take a moment to read this. And so Bankfull is a flood event that is tied to a depositional feature, AKA floodplain in the field. These particular floods do a whole bunch of work scouring and maintaining channel conditions. And so let's explore that concept a little more. This is a continuous stream flow record for a site in the Deschutes River system from about 2004 to about 2015. You'll notice a few things going on in this graph. We have big peak flows, big flood events, and we call those peak flows. And then we also have these low flows down here, and we call those the base flows. And so those big flows typically are snow melt runoff, and sometimes rain falls on snow and creates these very, very big flood events. Bankfull is tied to these frequent flood events through here. And so this is what we do. We take the peak flow event for each year and we plot them on this graph. And so what we do is we plot these by the recurrence intervals. And so this line right here has about a 1.5 year chance of flooding every year. This is the 5-year flood, the 10-year flood, and then this is what we call the 50-year flood. And that's an exceedance probability, and some fancy statistics for hydrology is what we do. And so we're really interested in this flood event that occurs really quite frequently. And so back in the 1960s, there were some really sharp fluvial geomorphologists, and that's the study of how Earth is shaped by water. And they were looking at stream flow and sediment measurements. Luna Leopold was one of these folks. And what they observed were there were these big flood events that happened rarely, or about 6% of the time. And when they do happen, they move, quite a bit of sediment, of the sediment load. But then we get these relatively frequent events. And these occur most frequently, about 90% of the time. So a lot more frequent than these huge peak floods, the Bankfull flows. And it transports actually most of the sediment load. The big floods look really big, but these little floods actually are putting in the most cumulative work influencing the river shapes. And those big floods might form great conditions, but these frequent floods really maintain the niches. They maintain that channel form. And so from this really intensive studies in the 60s, they really learn this, that bankfull is the stage that corresponds to discharge at which channel maintenance is most effective. So we're moving sediment, forming and changing bends and meanders, and generally doing work that results in the average form, morphological characteristics of channels. So now let's put bankfull in NR9 context. So it's really important to characterize the channel and the valley, and that's what bankfull will do, and we'll examine a little bit of that. But also it's really a critical key to identify where bankfull is, so we can identify if it's a braided or side channel unit, whether or not pieces of large woody material count, whether or not they're engaged within the flood, the bankfull channel. Also, unstable banks. It's critical to know where bankfull is, so we can look at the zone to see if there's any erosion from any unstable banks. And then also the Wolman pebble counts. So when we're trying to characterize the stream bed, we need to know where bankfull is so we can start our measurements on each side. So the thing that we want to talk about a little bit is what kind of valley do we have? And that really answers the potential of the stream. So when we look at a valley, we're really thinking about is the valley confinement or the entrenchment. How constraining are the landforms, the topographic features, or those hill slopes on the edge of the valley? Is the river trapped in there for the reach, or can the river meander freely across the valley? And that says a whole lot about the potential in the river process. So here's an example of where hill slopes are confining the river, and we say that it's entrenched into the valley. And then this is a situation where we have an unconfined valley and it's not entrenched. And then there's categories for moderate in between the two confining or entrenched valleys. So here's a few images of confined valleys. Usually we talk about confinement, we're thinking about geologic controls, and that's kind of what constrains it. And these are some of my favorite unconfined valleys. These are extremely beautiful to me from my perspective, and they tend to be biological hotspots, really for fish productivity. Folks at University of Oregon took a hard look at channel types that were present in these different kinds of valleys. And in the unconfined valleys, we tend to have more pool area and deeper pools. And, you know, your data with an understanding of legacy or historical issues, it really gives us context of departure. And then it provides us with opportunities to restore key processes. And so, you know, these things, we really start to see the patterns of these things. When a stream channel in a valley is really functioning, we get these things like hypereic exchange, and this water mixes from the stream through the stream bed, and it may interact with the groundwater. And it's really cool because it takes nutrients and it can make them biologically available downstream. But for me, being a hydrologist, it can incrementally cool water, and it creates these little niches for fish. And these things happen when the channel is in a good condition. And so now let's begin to transition from what bankfull is to how do we find bankfull out at the landscape. And so let's take a look at a cross section of a valley. The first thing that we have in a valley is we have this wetted channel right down in here. And then the next thing that we have is this bankfull channel that's kind of tied to this depositional feature or floodplain on that valley. And then what's not showing in this illustration is this would be called a terrace. It might have been formed by a historical climatic regime. So when we're measuring bankfull discharge, how do we find bankfull stage in the field? To do that, we have to find the bankfull indicators. And so what is the primary bankfull indicator? It's the relatively flat depositional surface immediately adjacent to the channel formed by the drainage area in the present hydrologic and climatic regime. And so we've got some really cool videos that we typically show when we hold this in class. And Dave Rosgen's looking at an old glacial valley, and he's pointing out some of those old terrace features. And it's pretty neat that you can see. And so there's some other videos out there that we can share with you to help give you that bigger context of separating it from the historical from the current or present climatic regime. And we're going to talk more about this out in the field and provide a really nice field demonstration to help point these things out for you. So what is that primary Bankfull indicator again? It's that relatively flat depositional surface immediately adjacent to the channel. And so let's look at a meandering channel that creates that surface through the process of erosion and deposition. And so we have erosion on the outside of the meander, and then we have deposition on the inside of the meander. And so the channel has velocities that are faster, that are flowing along the outside than on the inside. So the tops of the point bars are on banks just beyond the wetted channel. Those are really good areas of deposition where we can find that bankfull surface. But on the outside where there's the erosion, we're not really going to see a nice floodplain surface because there's just going to be a lot of scour out there. Also, there's a change in particle size from more coarse to finer substrates. And that follows the pattern of sediment deposition. The rock sizes usually get smaller or they get finer as you go up onto that floodplain surface, and they tend to be coarser or larger as you're closer to like the deeper part of the channel or that thalweg area. And so really what we want to encourage is finding a bunch of data points for calling a consistent bankfull. And what we don't want to do is don't rush into the process of just using one indicator at one spot. Really be a detective, and you'll see the science and you'll see these indicators kind of coming back to you. And so, you know, link these ones from the water surface up to the top of the surface, try to find out what that elevation is, and then maybe on this bar, see what that elevation is, and try to find all the clues that are pretty consistent for getting that best call out in the field. So here's a list of some other bankfull indicators. A good bankfull call might show itself through any or all of these different indicators. Remember, bankfull is that frequent scour or maintenance of the channel. And so frequent scour of vegetation from none to some. It might be from herbaceous to woody. It might be a change in bank slope from steeper to flatter to that depositional flat surface. It might be a defined sediment scour line. And so we're seeing that sign of the scour of that frequent flood. It might be a lichen or a moss line. And it might show itself as a stain on a larger rock or substrate. And so use these lines of evidence to be a detective. Use all of these indicators to reinforce a call with your team. And so communicate it and have fun and really be curious about these things. And you'll see higher quality data for you and your team. So where should we measure bankfull at? We do it at the first 3 fast water units we come to, but don't force it if that's not a great place to take a measurement. And we'll see some watch out situations here in a minute. We take our measurements at riffles where the channel is straighter and relatively narrow throughout. And then last, We measure at locations free of large channel obstructions that can create some different kinds of hydraulics influencing channel form that might not be consistent with the bankfull dynamics. So let's take a little deeper look at this last bullet, looking at problem places for bankfull. And right here would be a nice spot to take that right at this riffle to take a bankfull measurement at this location. Where not to measure bankfull. So these places are bad. Near culverts or log jams, they influence hydraulics in the channel form upstream. Pools are not where we measure this. Stay out of pools for bankfull. Riffles are the place that we want to be. Places where banks are obstructed at high flows will just be about impossible. And, you know, if things are obstructing the banks, we're not going to get that depositional floodplain feature. And then, yeah, remember how we said channels change, actively eroding stream banks. There's a lot going on. And so we don't want to force a measurement in the first 3 riffles if there's just not a lot of dynamic equilibrium happening, if there's other obstructions and other things. And so let's not force it. Let's be patient and keep moving up. And so, yeah, what if you're marching up through the first 3 fast water units and you start your reach and you're scratching your head because all those indicators you learned just are not showing a consistent pattern? You know, we don't give up, we don't fret. We just don't take those bankfull width measurements. And so really investigate the next riffle for clear indicators. And there will likely be many fast water units. And then the last thing we want to do is make sure we document which riffle that we're doing it with the fast water unit that we're measuring. And so we're documenting which unit we're taking these measurements on. So the more we know about a system, the better prepared we'll be. And so we really want to be an informed detective. And similar to how Dave Klug just presented that level 1 work effectively. And so knowing the last few winter storm runoff events, what is the past flooding history? Those recent floods, they can show a signal in the vegetation and the sediment depositional patterns. And so there might be like a 50-year flood event that might have scoured and laid the deposition. And we just want to be mindful about that when we go out to do the surveys. The next thing we want to be thoughtful of is bankfull as a depositional feature. And you might not know a whole lot about Rosgen A and B stream types just yet, but A and B channel types, they're not really depositional environments. A and B stream channel types are steep and they tend to be constrained or entrenched, and they're more of a source or transport sediment transport process. And so their bankfull features, their depositional features tend to be these little ribbons or discontinuous floodplains. And so up higher in these steeper gradient streams, we might just have a small little indicator of what those are. But down in our lower gradient valleys, we tend to have a lot of depositional features, especially if they're functioning appropriately. And so just be mindful of that, the type of stream that we're in and how those bankfull indicators might show themselves. So measuring bankfull, what form do we use to record bankfull measurements? The form we use is our channel unit form. And on this, we have bankfull width, max bankfull depth, our flood prone width, and then 10 places for bankfull depth. And so you can see right in here is the bankfull width, the max bankfull depth, the flood prone width, and then these are the 10 depth measurements that we'll take. And that's how we document it. So when we're measuring this bankful dimension, we start by stretching a tight and level line between good bankful indicators on opposite banks. We want to make sure it's perpendicular to the thaw wag, and we're not measuring downstream or upstream per se. So when we're measuring bankful depth, we will have 10 bankful depth measurements to come up with the average bankful depth. So when we start, we want to divide the bankful width by 10 to get 10 cells. Then we start at the midpoint of the first cell. So we start at about half of the interval and go a full interval after that, and then continue on a full interval after that. Please note here, we're measuring the shape or form of the bankful channel. So we want to measure up to the height of the top tape from the bottom of the stream bed. We're not measuring the depth of the water. We want to measure that bankful depth to the tape. We have some bankful cards that are really helpful and tell you where to measure on the tape based on that width. And so, yeah, we're not measuring to the water level. We're measuring what that bankful channel, the width depth is across. And so here's a nice image of what this looks like. And so here we're breaking it into those 10 different cells to get the midpoint at each cell. And so that's why we break it into the half and then go a full unit after each one. And then also what we need is that max bankful depth. And that's used for helping us understand that flood prone width. And so that is flood prone width is important because it helps us understand the valley and how the channel interacts with the valley. And so to determine that flood prone depth, we take 2 times the max bankful depth. And we figure out what that width is. And so, and then we take the flood prone width and we divide it by the bankful width. And so here it is again. Here's 1 max bankful depth, and that takes us to bankful, and then 2 times that to get what that flood prone width is. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So stretching the tape across the stream at a level height. And so now we want to go and figure out what that width is at 2 times. And that determines the entrenchment ratio. Again, the flood prone width divided by the bankful width. And we're doing this to classify that entrenchment. And so can we ever estimate that flood prone width? And you'll see a little bit more once we show the Rosgen classification. Yes, we can. And so when the flood prone width is greater than 2.5 times the bankful width, we can estimate it. And what that does is it really informs Rosgen stream type C's and E's. These are the ones with really broad or wide floodplains. And we'll show you that here in the next 30 minutes. All right, so let's play a little game. Where is bankful? And we'll do this with Waldo. All right, and so we're looking at this situation. Where is he at? And here, where is Waldo? And he's really sitting right up there at the change in depositional, at that depositional feature. We see a change in the particle size. And so as we're going up, it gets, the rock surfaces are getting finer. So kind of larger, and then they get really smaller once you get up to that surface. And again, we'll examine this in much more detail out at White Shoes. All right, up in this environment, on top of this depositional feature, also we're looking at this lower limit of perennial vegetation. And so we get frequent scour through here because of that sediment transport, and that really inhibits that vegetation from getting established. And so look for the depositional flat surface, look for these vegetation and scour indicators. All right, in this situation, you know, over here, we've got these cut banks. We see erosion way out here on the outer parts. And then in here, we've got these nice bars. So this is where Waldo's hanging out at here. Really at the top of the deposition. And then we can see that we have larger rock sizes and it gets smaller as we get up here. And it really releases its energy as it gets up onto the floodplain. And so that's why we have finer particle sizes, those rocks. All right, in this situation, Waldo's hanging out down here by the creek. So we've got the lower limit of the perennial vegetation, but we also have this scour forming these undercut banks. And so kind of right in there at the roof of those undercut banks is really the right place to be. But be careful with taking a bankful measurement in riffles with undercut banks. And we recommend choosing another riffle because there can be area underneath that undercut bank that we just can't measure with our protocol. And so again, recommend if we're having undercut banks, let's go up to the next riffle and let's take a better, higher quality measurement because we got to get some good data. All right, here. Yeah, this tagline's kind of right on it. And out here, we have some colonizing vegetation that's starting to establish a bar down here in what we call an inner berm. And it's capturing sediment and it's trying to narrow the channel. However, it's really right out here on each side is really the better bankful. And so this channel is undergoing some sequences of recovery, but really utilize all the clues as you're going through on getting that consistent feature called throughout the measurements. But yeah, please, you know, take photos of these things and document them if you're seeing a lot of them in the system as well. And here, note the Broad Valley has a terrace. And so, you know, historically, this used to be a floodplain surface, but now our floodplain surface is now down in here due to some changes. And so this surface is a much better location for calling the bankful at that incipient point of flooding. Really also vegetation, steeper to flat, use those indicators. Right up here, this is a higher energy system, a little bit steeper, maybe one of these Rosgen B channels, not really a C channel. And so we've got this ribbon of floodplain surface there. Yeah, also right down in here, look at this size rock, large rock, and then it gets up to smaller size materials. So really that change in the particle size, getting towards gravels for that particular system. It could be sand, it could be gravels, just kind of depends on what kind of stream you're looking at. Yep, right here at the top of, again, frequent scour, vegetation, top of depositional surface. But again, when we're using bankful, we need to call it here, but we also need to be able to determine it to see if these logs should count. And do you guys think that this log would be within the bankful channel? I certainly do, and I would count that log as you're doing the survey going upstream. Here's another one of these, maybe a little trickier B channel types. Not a whole lot of depositional areas, kind of these margins along the sides. And yep, right along that that boundary. Really the vegetation, the perennial vegetation is really the limit. So a situation like this, we've got some bedrock along the margins. We have this kind of a gravel bar that was probably formed because of some of this influencing the hydraulics. You know, so probably not the best place to take that measurement. But really looking at some of these other indicators, so it's not a great location. And so maybe we don't want to take that measurement here, but maybe we need to think about wood or other things. And so look for these lichen moss stain lines, look for any kind of indicators of that frequent scour. And then if you can link it up with other surfaces back here, that's what we need to do, is using all of the indicators for making a good sound call and really communicate this with the team and have fun with it. Yeah, and over here, a change in the bank slope was the good indicator. And so put them together. And then, you know, where do we pick Bankfull? Which wood pieces within this jam do we count? You know, does this count? Does this count? Does this count? And so we really need, again, some consistent rules for identifying where it is with Bankfull, and use all of the indicators and work together as a team. And it looks like Waldo found himself, and you know, with a little bit more demonstration out in the field, we think you guys are going to really get the hang of this and take high quality measurements for your districts and for your forest where you're working at this summer. And so with that, if there's any questions, we can take a look at questions, and then we'll go into the Rosgen presentation. The C's and the E channels, we just love them. We love them for their curves, and we want to accentuate those curves. All right. So yeah, now we're going to transition over to Rosgen stream type. And so we talked briefly about the Rosgen system, and we even took a little look at, in level 1, looking at doing a level 1 exercise and looking at topographic maps and beginning to understand and characterize what kind of streams we might be looking at. And that's where Rosgen's stream types are really helpful. They help us understand the behavior. They help us understand how to measure a stream to be able to see if it's functioning appropriately. This really helps us. And so, you know, A stream channels, we're going to go into this in more detail. They tend to be up here at the higher portions of the mountains. Our B channel types, I'm sorry, let me get this. Our B channel types tend to be kind of these conveyor belts about mid slope that kind of process a lot of the materials that come from these steeper places. And they're just kind of processing zones. And then our C's and E's, they tend to be these depositional areas where our water, our sediment, our nutrients, all of these things get inundated and deposited from these upstream places. And so these Rosgen stream types really help us understand what ought to be out there and how it ought to behave. And so let's dive in. And so the objective of this talk is to provide a brief background of Rosgen's classification system. And there's many books in our offices And we have some really good papers, particularly the benchmark paper from the Katina. And we have that in our hard binder. And that was available through the website that Katie was showing earlier today. And I encourage you, when you have a down day in the office, to take a look at that. And it really lays out the framework for the Rosgen system. It's really a good system. I really enjoy it. It's helped me understand rivers. And so here is the Rosgen classification system. It's a top-down system. So we start at the top row and we work our way down through it. And so is a channel a single thread or is it multi-threaded? That's the very first question. And then entrenchment. Entrenchment is the next question that we'll look at. And we just kind of briefly went through what entrenchment is in the Bankfull Floodprone. And so let's just take a quick look at that again. So entrenchment is, we've got the Bankfull width. And so this is our indicator. We have a nice tape set up there, perpendicular. We have our max depth, and we go 2 times the max depth. And then we want to figure out how wide is that elevation from 2 times max depth. And so we want to go out on that side and out on this side to get that width. And that's our flood prone width. And we divide that by our Bankfull width to get that entrenchment value. And so from entrenchment, these are the different stream types. And so if you have a 1 to 1.4, you're in an A, F, or G. 1.4 to 2.2, you're pretty much moderate and you're kind of locked into these B. And then if you're slightly entrenched, you have a C, D, or E channel type. And so what I want to point out is these are the categories, but there's these little asterisk marks. And what this means is entrenchment ratio may vary by 0.2 units. And so this could be, 2.4, 1.2 to 2.4. And so nature is kind of messy and these things are kind of moving in transition. And so there's this continuum concept associated with these. And so that's why what we were talking about in that last presentation, where if it's 2.5, we can estimate the entrenchment. And this is where we're getting it from, because anything more than 2.5 is not really telling us anything more. We kind of know it's a C or an E channel type, or if it's braided, it's a D. So that's how entrenchment plays itself out and how we put it into a category. And again, entrenchment is a very important category in a Rosgen system. Right after the thread, it's the second most important. All right, so we work through entrenchment. Now the next indicator in the key we want to work through is this width-depth ratio. So let's recall again what we learned from the Bankfull presentation. There's some thresholds in here, and that's 12 and 40. Those are the numbers that you see in here, less or greater than. So let's take a look at that disclaimer again. The disclaimer is down here at the bottom. Entrenchment and sinuosity, they can be 0.2 units, but with depth ratios, they can vary by plus or minus 2 units. And so the continuum concept, just keep that in the back of your mind. And so when we're measuring Bankfull width depth, we get the width of the Bankfull channel, and we divide that by the average of Bankfull depths to get the Bankfull width depth. And then we have the continuum plus or minus 2 units. And so that's how we get the width depth. Then we have sinuosity, and Dave Kluge did present that well to us. And that's a measure of channel length to valley length, typically. And so within here, we have thresholds of 1.2, 1.5. So imagine the valley where the stream length is 1.5 times the valley length. That thing is meandering across its valley, and it informs the process. And so we get the sinuosity there. And then as we continue to go down, we have these slope ranges. 4 to 10% is a clean A channel. 2 to 4 is a G. Less than 2 is a F. B channels are 2 to 4% slope. But if it's less than 2% slope, it can be a little C. Or if it's greater than a 4% slope, it can be a B channel because it's entrenched. And it can be a little A to kind of demonstrate that slope class. That's what's going on there. And an E channel, if it's less than 2% slope here. And then the next thing we look at is what you'll see here in a little bit later is the pebble count presentation. And so we're going to be looking at the channel materials that are forming the stream bed within the reaches, and we're going to sample those particles or those rock sizes, and we'll come up with, is it a gravel? If it's a entrenchment of, greater than 2.2, a narrow width depth, high sinuosity, and it's got gravel size, it might come out as an E4. Is how that works. And so let's take a little trip around the landscapes and look at some of these different channel types. First off, we have Rosgen A channels, and these things are steep. You can see A channel types here, 4 to 10% in gradient. Again, these things are way up on the tops of the mountains. Typically, these are our source areas where a lot of this material comes from. The bed forms, they tend to be step pool, cascade, or chute bed. They don't have much depositional areas within them. They don't have much floodplains in these kinds of systems. They're steep, narrow channel. They exhibit a high sediment transport potential and relatively low in-channel sediment storage capacity. And the influx of large organic debris can play a major role in determining the bed form and overall channel stability of the system. They're steep, and these things are hard to walk. Not my favorite, but man, they have a role out there for functioning. B channels are a little less steep than A channels, 2 to 4%, 2 to 4 compared to that 4 to 10. They tend to be that transitional area where stream transport materials, they flow through like a conveyor belt. These reaches process a lot of sediment, and that's what they do. They don't store a lot of sediment, but we do start to exhibit discontinuous floodplains as more smaller ribbons with a little more floodplain than A types. These channels have forms that are a little wider and shallower, greater than 12 in width depth. These tend to be influenced by debris constrictions and local confinement. They typically produce scour pools as pocket water, and they have the characteristic rapids. Stream bank erosion rates are normally low, as are channel aggradation degradation process rates. So they just kind of process sediment. That's really what they do, process sediment and water as conveyor belts. Is kind of how I think about them. All right. C stream types. These are, as Eric pointed out, these are some of our favorites. These are those depositional areas with stream gradients, mostly of 1 to 2%. So when we look off at these things, we look at these point bars, and all that sediment, the water, and the organic matter that's depositing in these systems. These are biological hotspots across the stream type gradients. So much more productivity in these stream systems. Look at that entrenchment. Really, not low entrenchment. It has an open floodplain. It's got nice sinuosity in the channel form, the width depth. In these places, humans can build roads or houses that constrain some of these processes, and channels can unravel or they can destabilize. Sometimes grazing practices can impact the vegetation that hold these channels These kinds of places are usually the barometer for altered upland activities. You know, if we harvest too many trees or if we have uncharacteristic wildfires that drain to these places, they can unravel. These are the willow valleys that can have big uplift. These tend to be the beaver areas. The sea stream types exhibit a sequence of riffles and pools that are linked to meander geometry. And they tend to have these pools and riffles that are approximately 5 to 7 bankfull channel widths. Really cool systems. Rosgen DA stream types are anastomosed, meaning a multiple thread channel with a very low gradient, and bankfull width of each channel is being highly variable. This is considered stable due to fine-grained cohesive bank materials, and it really supports dense vegetation. These tend to be old lake beds or other subsidence geologic areas. All right, here's my other favorite stream type, the elusive E channel. And over here in Eastern Oregon, we really don't get too many of these in our semi-arid cow country. And the width depth of these systems is incredible. They tend to have very narrow widths, but they tend to be quite deep. And these root systems form great undercut banks within these. And that's just great habitat for big lunkers under these stream banks. Really cool meandering, highly meandering systems. These are classic entrenched meandering channels that have been described by early date geomorphologists. These are often observed to be working towards a functional floodplain inside the confines of a channel that is consistently increasing width within the valley. F channels are incised deeply into their valley. They tend to have very high width depths. F channels can develop very high bank erosion rates, significant bar deposition, and accelerated channel aggradation or degradation, while providing for very high sediment supply and storage capacities. Usually these ones are undergoing through some incision sequences, but they can be natural channels out there. And then the last stream type we'll discuss here is the G type. And, you know, G to me can stand for gully, the entrenched deep step pool channel. The channels have very high bank erosion rates and a high sediment supply because these are simply unraveling systems. The G generates high bed load and suspended sediment transport rates. Channel degradation and side slope rejuvenation processes are typical. And so here is a pretty challenging concept to get your minds around of, but channels are not static out there. Channels evolve over time and they change. And so, you know, some of the stream measurements that might have been completed 10, 15, 20 years ago for the stream surveys that you'll be doing, they might not be the same stream channel types that you'll go out and look at. Hopefully they're going to be in a better condition, but not always. And so successional stages of channel evolution. Channels can and do adjust over time in various stages. Here's one example. This in the top graphic, it's going from an E channel to a C channel. And so here's the E channel form, a narrow depth, and then here becomes the C channel form. Here's the E meandering, and as you can see, the C gets straighter. And so down here, the slope is 0.8% on the E channel, and then it becomes 1% on the C channel. And so slope increases as the channel gets straighter. And eventually we get this gully, a G channel that starts to come in on the C channel. And that takes it even straighter. And so now we're up to a 1.5% slope going through here. And so it's going through these evolutionary changes due to a new base elevation through here. And so this is gravity and physics and channel evolution. And these things have been linked to the quality of habitat and the benefits of the stream channel over time in some really cool publications that have recently come out. And so they have to go through these sequences where it forms a gully, and then it goes from a gully channel to an F channel where it starts to create an inset floodplain. And then now that it has an inset floodplain, it can start to become this C channel again. And then over time, if the processes and land uses are appropriate, the C channel can become an E channel back within there, and it'll form the same slope that was there historically. But what I'd really like to point out is, this was the Bankfull floodplain feature at that time. And now, after it goes through these sequences, this is now a terrace, and the Bankfull feature is now back down in here. And so we've lost some of those historical processes of really interacting with a valley. And now we're down in here and just have smaller benefits over that time. And so channels change over time. And if this is confusing or complex, let's talk about this more when we're out there at White Juice. Feel free to pull us aside. And this is some of our most favorite stuff to chew on. And so love to chat about it with you guys. And so that is a pretty rapid presentation on the Bankfull floodprone process, and then also the Rosgen stream type and how to do that. Whew. And that's a long time for me to talk.
But you had so much more time.
I did, didn't I?
I think I may have messed up on that, which is good, right? Because it's all good. Thank you, Bob. So we are scheduled to take a break. We are ahead, so we'll go ahead and take a 15-minute break here, so you guys aren't staring at your computer consistently. So be back at 10:45, please. Thank you.
Hey, Katie, you still on?
I am.
I was wondering if I could just do a quick practice, just the intro of Pretty Wolman, make sure it works. I think I've got a solution to make this sound work, but I wanted to try it if you could.
Yep.
Okay. All
Gonna
right.
give it away. You're gonna give it away?
Well, hopefully people left. Most people left, right?
It's better to give it a shot now anyway. Yes, so yep.
I'll just do a little preview, a snippet. How's that?
Okay.
I'm not going to do the whole song. Okay. Now, I also want to try to figure out what I'm doing wrong with the sharing. Let's see.
Once you got going though, if it's fine.
Yeah. So.
And you're just going to share content. I have what I open up. I have it open in the back, and then when I share, I just share a window.
Share a window.
You go to like share content, and then there's
going
like
right
windows.
over. What's confusing me? It goes over the top of my Teams meeting window, and then I don't see my Teams meeting window to select it. So I gotta figure out how to get it. I'll put my Teams meeting window on my other monitor and try it that way. I think might be the solution.
Yeah, because when I did it that way, when I went to Windows, it actually put the presentation up on my one monitor, and on the other monitor, it actually put how you follow them, and it's got your notes and everything. So it actually gave me both options, but I couldn't see the Teams meeting. So.
Okay. I think I might see. Display mode is there now. Oh, it moved over here, but I gotta minimize that. Maybe all right. Now, do you see it?
Not yet.
No, you don't see it? It
Oh,
says it's got the red line around it.
okay. Okay, now it's up. I got it. Yep,
It
it's up
is
now.
up. So I got a little bit of a delay. All
Yeah, I
right.
think it just takes time to load.
Oh, that's the other problem. This is a quick song, so. Oh, now I don't have my screen changer. I use the side arrow key. So that's okay. Now I'm back at featuring the Pebble Boys. I click. Do you
Yep.
see it right away? Pretty Woman.
Nope. Delay now. Okay, now.
It's going to be a problem because this is a quick song. It changes. If I do another really quick with the words, lyrics. So I'm going to have to anticipate, I guess. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you might want to hit it just a
Answer.
little bit before you're gonna like go to the next slide. Like hit it, you know.
Before I finish
If you're
the
a little
last
bit,
lyric.
yeah, if you're a
Sorry.
little bit behind there, you know, that's fine. I think, you know.
All right. All right. Oh, I'll just try to anticipate. Everybody's rates are different too.
Yes, it's very true.
Can you hear that okay? Pretty woman, zigzagging down those streams, pretty woman.
Okay, yep. Not super loud, but I can hear it.
Okay. Well, I don't want it to be super loud because I want to be able to sing and they can hear my voice.
Right.
And I'm going to
Okay.
try to get other guys to sing along too, like Casey Shooter and Ryan. Yeah.
Casey's still on, he said. So Casey, you gotta sing.
Yep.
I'm here, Dave. I
Call 'em
haven't
out.
practiced, but I'll give it a good go.
Oh, you do that. You're gonna be a Pebble Boy. This is the Pebble Boys, not just singular, but all right, you're the latest member.
Right
Newest
on.
member.
Happy to be a part of it. I wish I had a wig and stuff.
All right. Glad to hear. I'll call out a few other guys as well. There's not too many that I see as I recognize. That Greg Bennett's on. I see him on.
Get
I'll
Eric
call him
Larkin in
out.
there too.
Eric Larkin, I'll call him out.
Yep, got to do that.
We gotta get Ryan.
And Ryan, of course. Yeah, I don't think he sang along with me last year, but I'm gonna have to.
He said in person he would do it, but he wouldn't do it over the computer, I think is what he said.
It's safer over the computer. You're at home.
It is. Yes, you're right, it is.
Still in my PJs over here.
Yeah, see? Are you recording this? Maybe that's the deal. You are recording this.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, are you good for a little bit? I'm gonna go get some water.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. All right, Dave, whenever you're ready.
Okay, folks, are you back on? All right. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Loud
Okay,
and clear.
loud and
Yep.
clear.
Yes, we can
I'm
hear
gonna
you.
go with the oldest survey protocol methodology known to fluvial processes and surveys, called the Wolman Pebble Count. I just found out that it came out in 1964 by a guy named M. Gordon Wolman, who wrote a textbook on the fluvial processes of geomorphology. And he described this count method in his textbook. And ever since 1964, it's been known as the Wolman Pebble Count. Now, interestingly enough, that very same year, this pebble count came out. In 1964, Roy Orbison wrote a song that became a #1 hit, a pop single that year. I believe he was inspired by this guy, M. Gordon Wolman, and you'll find out at the end of this presentation why I believe that. Okay, so what is the Wolman Pebble Count and why do we do it? Or what is it? It's a method to assess substrate sizes when 2 times in each stream reach. You take it. So you kind of figure out where that is. Why do we take it twice? This is to get information on substrate size distributions to help characterize the reaches. Bob,
Hey,
nice
Dave.
to describe.
Hey, Dave,
Hello?
do you have a PowerPoint presentation you were going to share?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That would help, huh? Let's jump right in there. Here we go again. Okay. I should be seeing it. Anybody see it? Wolman Pebble Count Protocol.
Not yet. Nope, not yet.
Up on mine. It's not showing up. I'll turn my camera off. Does that help? Presenting.
There it is.
You see
As soon
it?
as you turn the camera off, it popped up there.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Apologize again for that delay. But yeah, so why we do it is to get information on substrate size distributions, as Bob had beautifully described, for helping us out characterize the reach on the substrate side of the characterization. And where? It's at a normal riffle, 1/3 and 2/3 total reach length in representative riffles. So about 1/3 and about 2/3 in a representative riffle, most likely where you'd be taking Bankfull in those places. And how do you do it? Well, you take at least a minimum of 100 picks of substrate, and it's commonly on a heel to toe spacing, and you go from Bankfull to Bankfull. Start on the point of Bankfull, end on the point of Bankfull as you go across heel to toe in your transect. And so no cheating, nothing under 100. If you get 99, you got to turn back, and no peaking at the rock you pick. Okay. In addition, it is required to measure the channel gradient at the Wolman Pebble Count site with a hand level, according to our protocol. And you must use an Abney level. Well, it's preferred to use an Abney level for accuracy's sake. And if you're using an Abney, you'll view upstream through the level as far as the observer can see to the observer's eye height on the other surveyor. So that way you're approximately the same height, same level as being surveyed, as being measured. eye to eye, roughly. Okay, the Wolman pebble count protocol is how we do this is measure and record the particle, the b-axis. That's the intermediate axis, not the short, not the widest or the longest, but the intermediate. Helps to characterize that particle the best. And then, of course, for sand, silt, and clay, where you can't determine that, you just record it as finer than 2 millimeters. Okay, for using a gravelometer, this is a picture of a gravelometer with holes in it that you pass the rock through. And so you pick the appropriate size. In this example, the 90 millimeter hole size is too small for this intermediate, the b-axis, for it to pass through. So we picked the the b-axis to go through the 128 size hole. Now, note that the hole size is on the large end of the category on your form, on your Wolman form. And the next one down would be on the small side. So if somebody calls out a 128, you're looking at the right side of those numbers. You're looking at the large number, not the small number, to make that tally. So that's a matter of quality control to make sure you're tallying in the appropriate block. So in this case, again, that 128, 90 to 128 is what you would scribe that, tally that particle in, okay? And this is an example of how there's different ways you can tally particles. You can use a dot method, is pretty common as well, but whatever method you use, be consistent and make it legible. And then you can add up and get a cumulative percent as you add these numbers up. And there's an Excel spreadsheet that does that for you. And you want to make sure, though, you want to add up all your totals by class to make sure you have more than 100. Because if you have 99, you got to do another transect, unfortunately. Okay. Now here's just a picture of some folks in an NR9 training. You'll be able to do this here in a couple days. Practice this protocol. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So I wanted to make this fun for you and entertaining. And Casey Shooter is my latest addition to the Pebble Boys. I'm going to call out Ryan Manzula. If you would join me too, just turn your mics on, guys. There's a few other guys out there I noticed that have sung this song or should have sung the song before. This is a class participation sing-along, so think of it like karaoke. And please join me as we sing Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison came out in 1964, the same year that the Wolman Pebble count method came out. No joke, no coincidence. So that's one reason why this song is so cool. And so sing along, would you? Are you on, Casey?
I'm here, Dave.
All right. How about Ryan? You gonna join me? Come on, guys. I know Greg Bennett's out there. He could sing, whoever. Okay, here we go. Pretty woman, zigzagging up the street. Pretty woman, those rocks are in my dreams. Skinny or the fat, intermediate
where it's at.
Measure. Pretty woman, size those rocks and tally in the appropriate block. Well, some you score to find your D50. Yeah. Pretty woman to parade. Representative is what they teach. Pretty woman, share your skull with me. Oh, how my arm feels, numb to the bone. Without 100, we can't go home.
Oh. Pick.
Measure. Pretty woman, measure the B-axis. Pretty woman, you got me on my knees. Pretty woman, D50 is the key. You see. Rosgen stream type, now you're free. Let's crawl around in damn stream.
Pretty woman, count those rocks with me.
Let's rap now. Come on. I'm at the end of the transit. I got 99. Gotta have 100 before I clock my time. I do stream slowly. I get good data. Do another transit. It'd be more better, more better, more better.
Mo better. Mo better.
Pick, 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 pick,
Pick,
pick,
pick,
pick,
pick, pick,
pick,
pick, pick,
pick, pick,
pick, pick, pick, pick.
measure. Pretty woman. All right. Hopefully you'll remember that song. And maybe lighten up your day. Next time you do that. All right. Thanks, guys.
That was awesome.
We expect an encore of that for those who are going to the field. Maybe you can do an encore, a live encore for folks.
Live encore. Okay. All right. And I'll get more class participation on the field, right? Come
Right.
on. Come on.
Thank you, Dave. All right, Ryan, I believe you're up with large woody material. Ryan.
I think I scared him off.
Oh no, I'm coming. Sorry, I'm just having a little delay here. I see it on my screen. I'm just waiting for. I got another computer I'm using to make sure I see how it's updating. Okay, I can see it on here. What did you say? Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, it's on screen.
It's like, yep, fish.
Let me just share the right screen this time. Let's see. This should do it here.
All right, it's up. I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, there we are. Awesome. All right. Sorry about that, guys. A little delay. The Pretty Woman song will scare you if you're not careful. Okay. Excellent. All right. So on to our next topic, large woody material. So one of the big things that we collect while we're in the field is counting the amount of wood that is in the stream channel. So what I'm about to do now is just kind of go through everything you guys need to know about counting wood. Basically, the whole protocol from the NR9. And let's see if I can get this thing to work for me. All right. Why is it not flipping anything? I am. Oh, there we go.
Hey, there it is. Okay. Good job.
Okay. All right. Can figure out. It's trying to do dual screen on the monitor I'm presenting to my crew right now on top of my other screen. Okay. So anyways, what we want to do, the definition of large woody material, also known as large woody debris. We want to know why it's important and when we want to actually count it. So the new definition of large woody material was replacing the large woody debris is what it used to be called. There used to be a negative connotation associated with the word debris. Basically, it's in the way, it's a problem, where in reality, we like wood. So the new definition is way mo better, PC as I like to call it. So what do we actually want to look for on the tree? So what we're looking for is the bowl and or the root swell must engage with that Bankfull channel that both Bob and Klug had told us about. So here I kind of have a diagram that kind of shows you what is the definition of the tree bowl, the root swell, which is basically the fusion of the individual roots. We're looking for no pore space. The roots themselves do not actually count. So if you have just roots in the Bankfull channel, you would not count that piece of wood. However, if you have the root swell or the bowl, aka the tree trunk, engaging into your Bankfull channel, we would count it. So this piece that I'm standing on here is definitely within the Bankfull channel. It's even within the lower wetted channel since it's actually within the water with the root swell and the bowl. So why is it important? Why do we care about counting the large woody material within the channel? It provides fish refuge and cover, especially during those high flow events. You get, say a rain on snow event in the spring or a large thunderstorm event that puts a lot of flow through your system. It basically gives them a little place to rest, get out of those real strong flows and seek cover and not get blown out of the entire system. Another thing that it does for us is it captures organic matter. So basically those same little areas that create back eddies behind the logs and slow the water down basically are allowing the organic nutrients suspended within the water column to actually settle out. And this allows for more efficient cycling of the nutrients and of course the retention of the nutrients within the system instead of them just all being pushed out. And these nutrients provide a lot of food and cover for our macroinvertebrate friends that we know fish love to eat. In addition, they also capture substrate. That same process of slowing the water down allows for your finer type materials to settle out, aka your gravels that are really important for fish spawning. A lot of systems we see have a lot of entrenchment and they have too high a flow, and you see a lot larger substrate in those systems than what should naturally be there. We want to see that wood in there helping to slow down the water and capture that substrate to create a more dynamic channel. In addition, it also provides more channel structure and stability, preventing our channels from eroding too quickly. So when do we want to count wood is our next question. Within the Bankfull channel, that is our big #1 rule here, is just making sure that we are within the Bankfull channel. Doesn't matter if it's standing, it can be down, it can be dead, or it can even be alive. We sometimes have standing trees that are alive that are actually within the Bankfull channel. The root swell actually will engage with the Bankfull channel. And it can even be in special cases units. You can see here behind me a waterfall, as you will find out, is defined as a special case unit. And you can see that some of those logs right behind me there are actually poking into the waterfall. So we would say that would be within the Bankfull channel of that waterfall, and we would go ahead and count that piece of wood. So what sizes do we want to count is our next question. I see wood out there. How do I know, what does it count? How big is it? So basically your first question is going to be which side of the Cascades are you surveying that day? A lot of you will be stuck to the east or the west side. However, there are a handful of crews out there, specifically Katie's crew, that will dabble in both sides. So making sure you're using the right size criteria for your location is critical to making sure you're counting the wood properly. So east side, large woody material dimensions. They are a little bit smaller than the west side, as we are more moisture limited out here, so our trees tend to not grow as fast. We always want to measure the length of a large woody material beginning at the end with the greatest diameter. So if your tree still had roots and the root swell on it, you would start from the root swell and go to the tip of the tree. Whereas if you just have a bowl, you just want to look for that larger diameter end and measure out towards the narrowest part. So the first size class we're looking at is it's 6 inches diameter at 20 feet from its largest end. So we measure out 20 feet, either using our reel tape or a wading rod, and then at that 20 feet, we either have a diameter tape, or you can kind of use your wading rod and your hands to kind of mark out the edges of the piece of wood to see if you have a diameter of at least 6 inches at that 20-foot length. That is the smallest size that we can count on the east side streams. Medium is our next size up. We actually go out from the largest end to 35 feet and then look for our diameter there. At that point, we're looking for 12 inches in diameter at 35 feet. That would qualify as a medium piece of wood. And then for a large piece of wood, we need that same 35-foot length, but we need 20 inches in diameter at a minimum. So that 6, 12, and 20 will be kind of the numbers that you will have in your head on the east side, and of course that 20 or 35-foot length, depending on what category you're going into. And then there's a picture of me up there on the left with some non-native grass growing on the Choice River. That was reed canary grass, one that we definitely see along our shores that is not welcome. All right, west side, large woody material dimensions. A little bit bigger, as I mentioned before, since we grow a little bit bigger trees on the west side. So our first size category is going to be a 25-foot length tree, and we're looking for that 12 inches in diameter. So yeah, definitely, looking for a little bit larger tree. All that 6-inch diameter stuff isn't going to be something you would be counting. Doesn't mean if you had a lot of it on the west side, you wouldn't make a comment about that wood. It's still important to capture those kind of unique things. And then so going up to our next size class, we're going to be going out at 50 feet is what we're looking for, minimum length of. And at that length, we're going to be looking for 24 inches in diameter of our tree to be able to get into that medium size category. And then next, we're still going to be at that 50-foot length for our large wood on the west side, but we're looking for that 36-inch diameter. So a 3-foot diameter tree at 30 feet long, pretty large tree. It's definitely something pretty substantial. But our west side streams also have a lot more water pushing through them. So we need our trees to be larger in order to stay and actually create a difference in the channel. And again, just want to harp on, we're always measuring the length from the largest end to the smallest end in regards to diameter. So there is one exception to this rule, and that is the 2 times rule. So this is when you're in really small systems, or at least smaller than normal, I would say. Basically, what you're going to be doing is you're looking at a smaller length of wood to count. So basically what this means is if your bankfull width is less than 10 feet on the east side, or if it's less than 12.5 feet for the west side, you're going to be going into this 2 times rule. So it's kind of a unique situation. Basically, you're going to be doubling it. The 2 times refers to the bankfull width. So the rule is 2 times the bankfull width is where you'll be taking the diameter for every single size class for your stream. So an example I have, let's say we're over here on the east side and we've got a bankfull width, not to be confused with the wetted width, but the bankfull width of 8. So this is under that 10-foot threshold I mentioned in the last bullet point there. So now we're looking for a large woody material length of 16 feet. We're doubling the 8-foot length and we're going out to 16 foot. And we're looking for the diameter at 16 feet to identify the size class. So basically, if we're on the east side and we had a length of 16 feet, do we have 6 inches in diameter? That would make it a small. If we have 12, it would be a medium. Or if it was 20, it'd be a large, all at that 16-foot length. What about large woody material and side channels? Do we care about that? It's actually a forest option. So it's up to your forest to decide if they think that data is important or not. I do personally collect it, and we can't enter it into our database. I do find it useful. It's the same protocol as the main channel. It must engage with the bankfull level of the side channel itself. All the same size classes, and of course that 2 times rule applies, and you might find yourself a little bit more likely to fall into that 2 times rule when you're working in a side channel due to their tendency to be a smaller width channel. So, and another thing we want to always do is record and photo substantial log jams or root wads within comments. This picture illustrates a large beaver dam complex that was created on a channel. Actually ended up shortening our survey almost a half a mile because it flooded a huge lake for us. But definitely worth noting, anytime you see a large debris pile, anything like that, pictures and comments are always great. When your your coordinator goes back to write your reports, they're going to be real happy to see all those comments and pictures to be able to write a real detailed report, kind of telling the story of the channel for you. So in review, it must engage in the Bankfull channel. We got to have that root swell or that bowl at some point interacting with that Bankfull channel height in order for us to count it. And then it's got to meet the length and diameter criteria based on your location, east or west side. And is the 2 times root applicable? Generally, we're going to be seeing this again in the side channels or in smaller streams. It'll definitely increase your wood counts substantially. So now we're going to go through a few examples here. This is a little bit more fun when we're doing interactive, but I'll just kind of walk through them with you guys. So the red line indicates the Bankfull level. And so we have this log up here that's kind of perched above it. And is it in and no? We're saying neither the root swell or the tree bowl interact with the Bankfull channel. We can see there's some roots that look like they go into the bank there, but they're definitely separated and have pore space within them, so we would not count that. Granted, if you do come across a lot of suspended wood above a channel that doesn't quite engage, definitely worth a picture and comments to capture that in your data. All right, we got a couple more here. I got the Bankfull. This one I actually have the Bankfull channel strung across the channel here for a good example for you guys. First one down here at the bottom, yes, we're going to say this does engage with Bankfull channel. You can actually see that the root, or the bowl itself is actually underneath the setup Bankfull tape right there, so definitely engaging into our Bankfull channel. And then we see this one that's standing on it right. It looks kind of close. You can kind of see how the bowl or the root swell kind of looks like it elongates into the channel bank, but no, we're just saying that the root swell doesn't fully engage because we're already having pore space and just individual roots engaging with the Bankfull channel, so we would not count that one. Couple more examples for you guys. A little bit higher flow system. Here's where the Bankfull level is on this. Yeah.
Pull that last slide up. It didn't come up right away, so as you were talking on that first one, the slide wasn't there. So at least for me, I don't know about everybody else, but you might want to just talk about that first one just real quick again because your slide wasn't there. So.
Gotcha. The Yeah, I see that now. My internet today at our office is not great. This one?
I think it was the next one. It was when you went to the next slide that you started to talk about that
Gotcha.
one that was on the lower one.
All right. It's loading.
Yeah, the one on the bottom.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
Perfect.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you count them if they're laying lengthwise of the stream or only crosswise?
Makes no difference. Definitely lengthwise can count as well if you run into that situation. Absolutely. It's as long as it's within that Bankfull channel, we don't mind the orientation of it. Okay, so here we are. We're catching up now. Yes, so here's the arrow pointing to the piece of large wood that's underneath the Bankfull tape there, showing that it does indeed engage in the Bankfull channel. And that one's kind of laying lengthwise with the channel, close. We often don't see them perfectly laid within the channel. They usually get swept away in that case, but it definitely happens. And then the one that's up here on the bank, we said that just no, that only the roots engage with the Bankfull channel, so we will not count this piece of wood. All right, and then we'll see how long it takes to load the next slide. There it is. Okay, this is actually out on White Shoes Creek, just upstream of Sisters, Oregon. Not where we'll be doing our test reach, but just a few miles up from there. So this system is a lot flashier than the last systems we were showing pictures of. And so the Bankfull level is quite a bit higher. There is a red line that will appear shortly, hopefully.
I see it here, so.
Oh, you do? Okay, now it pops
Yeah.
up. All right, well, our internet's so slow, I think there's more of a delay with the other computer I'm looking at than probably most of you guys have.
Okay.
So So yes, we're saying this tree on the left does engage with the bankful flow. We're saying the roots swell, and potentially the bowl itself are actually engaging with bankful flow. So we're saying that yes indeed counts. And then you would take your length and diameter measurement to figure out which size category to put that into. Oh, and then we're saying the one up on the shore there, we're saying it does not engage, as it is just the roots that are engaging into the bankful channel. I went too far. There it is. So we're only seeing a couple of the roots actually going into the bankful level. So we're not going to count that tree itself. And that is the final slide I have for large woody material. Any questions on that? Sorry about the clunkiness there at the beginning, folks.
I guess my only question would be if there's a lot of little stuff, logging slash and stuff, but under the size limit, for the small size, you just wouldn't count it, but just take a picture of it and talk about it in your notes?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, if it's all, I mean, unless you were actually in a channel small enough to go to the 2 times rule, you would just be making notes that, there was a large amount of uncountable wood or a large debris jam in that location.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Hey, Ryan, I got a question for you. So if you got a piece of log that's hanging over the creek and the branch is hanging in there, does that count?
Negative. No, the branch would count as just like the roots. So we're just looking exactly for that bowl or that root swell. So if you have a small branch hanging off engaging into the bankful channel, we wouldn't count that. If it was the tip of the tree, then yes, the tip of the bowl would still count. But no branches coming off of the bowl itself.
Oh, I guess I have another question. What about some of these wooden structures that they placed in the creeks eons ago and they're still there? Would they count?
Yes, good question. Yes, indeed, they would count. We do run into the issue sometimes when logs are buried in the channel. You will see this out on our test reach on White Shoes Creek, where it can be kind of hard to, really understand how much tree is buried into the channel. But that's just going to be, using the surveyor's best guess on that. But yes, placed wood would definitely be counted as well. Generally, that placed wood is adding to try to help meet the criteria of large wood pieces per mile. So we want to definitely capture those to kind of show the increase in large wood from a restoration project that you just may have stumbled across.
Okay, I have one more question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
I know the answer, but I want, so a live standing tree that's in the bankful, like say a big cedar, that counts, correct?
You got it. Yeah. There's definitely times where you have, a channel kind of grade from a debris jam or something like that, and it's actually risen the bankful level and you're intersecting the tree itself, a live standing tree, and you actually got the root swell engaging the bankful level, and definitely would count that. I will say that those vertical trees are a lot harder to understand exactly how long they are. At least for me, judging the distance of a tree laying down versus one vertical is a lot more challenging, but something to think about. And if you got a rangefinder or something like that, definitely use it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It definitely makes it a tougher call when you're looking at that, especially on the west side where you got to look up at 50 feet and see what the diameter is at 50 feet. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that.
There's probably only a couple branches in the way.
Right, yeah. How about a big debris jam if you've got all kinds of stuff stuck together and you can't always see everything? What would you do with that?
Yeah, your best bet is just to safely crawl around on the debris jam and see if you can't find the ends of your logs and extrapolate where they go through the channel, and hopefully through the debris jam and find out which end of which tree is what. It's basically, up to the surveyor's best judgment, but trying to pick those apart to get the pieces that actually count would be ideal. And then, of course, just comments and pictures of a large debris jam was always great. And I think, Katie, you might have more of a protocol where you even count them, perhaps?
We actually, we count the number of debris jams that we encounter throughout the survey, too.
So other fours may find that information useful. We unfortunately out here don't get to see too many of those.
Yeah, we see lots of them, large ones. Cool. Anybody else have questions for Ryan?
Excellent. Well,
All
thanks
right.
for listening, everybody.
We are running ahead of schedule, so I can give you a couple different options. Some people can give me a thumbs up on, we can take lunch right now and do just a 40-minute lunch, be back at noon. That means we'll actually start a little bit earlier for the afternoon and maybe get done earlier, or we could take an hour and come back at 12:30 and be on schedule. Who would like the first option of the 40-minute and getting done earlier schedule? Just give me a thumbs up. I knew there would be enough. Cool. All right. So I think everybody's kind of on that range. So let's go ahead and take an early lunch. Be back at noon, please. As close to noon as possible. And that way we can get going, and we can probably get done a little early today if everything goes well this afternoon. All right. Thank you.